A man who isn't up, who didn't get up, Chuck, from that canvas, but was being pounded until the referee put a stop in it in the second round, is Israel Adesanya, who lost that middleweight fight against Imavov.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck, is this the end of the great style bender himself, the last style bender, Israel Adesanya?
I wouldn't say it's the end. I think that would be very premature to say it's the end. But what has ended rather is him being top level fighter, a guy at the very top competing for the belt. Because if you think about it, Jay, he lost to Sean Strickland, right? Who himself, I think, 2 fights prior to actually facing Izzy, where he dethroned Izzy with the belt in a shock result. Sean Strickland beat Imavov on the route to getting a chance to getting a title shot. And then he surprises everyone. And I mean, people say it's a fluke result because nobody expected Strickland to beat Izzy. It's a fluke if you knock someone out. But if you dominate him for 5 rounds, I don't know how much of a fluke that is, right? Number 2, then there's the Pereira thing. Because before the Strickland stuff started, there was Pereira, the boogeyman who followed him all the way to the UFC. He beat him, and then Izzy came back and knocked him out. You're like, okay, he's back, right? So there's Pereira, loss. There's Strickland, loss. There's Strickland Duplessis, loss. There is Imavov, loss. And the thing about these guys is that none of them are wrestlers. You can't even say he was out-wrestled. They are strikers, which is what Izzy is good at, striking. And so if the strikers are beating the striker who's supposed to be the GOAT, then there are question marks, right? And I say it's the end of him being at the top because that's what he's become. That's why we lament over Chiefs and Man United in terms of here's what we know you to be at this level. When you're there mid-table, when you're there floundering, we don't really... That's not quite true. We don't want this version of you. And so with him getting beaten so often, I don't know if he gets a crack against Chimaev. I don't know if he gets to fight Utrikas again. And so is he in the middle and you don't know, is fighting Fight Nights never on pay-per-views? That's not the Izzy that we want. So it's going to be hard going to get back to that level because he looked good in the first round. He looked good against Utrikas in some places as well. He looked good against Pereira, almost finished him. So there are instances where he looks like he's not over the hill. But the result's the result. And that was the good thing about Izzy, that regardless of what the opponent looked like, he got the result. Even if the pressure was on him, whether he was winning decisively, but at the end of the fight, he was the winner. And then this time, he was not. So is it the end? I think it's a bit premature to say that. But maybe it is, Jay, because when he lost to Strickland, he took like almost a year off. Comes back, loses to Trickers. Comes back, loses to Imavov. So the losing run is probably painting a picture.
Your argument and your conclusion don't align for me, my brother.
Because, no, Jay, what I'm saying is it's not the end of him.
I'm listening
right?
to you talk, right? And I'm just like, Chuck is being kind. I don't know why he just doesn't want to say like it's the end. Because it sounds like to me it's the end. It sounds like to me it's the end. Because, Chuck, like when we're talking about Israel Adesanya, who are we talking about? Talking about like the man who's got the second most defenses at middleweight after Anderson Silva, and we're talking about a man who famously, like, an image that's going to live with all of us who saw it in our minds, like, was willing to die out there and then went and he did the business. And the last of that shining light was when he came back in the second fight against Pereira and finally, did the business. But then he's been on a losing streak since then. And as you point out, which is why I'm saying, it's like, I was listening to your argument, and like, he lost against Pereira. He lost against Strickland.
Champion.
He lost against Strickers.
Champion.
Yes, which means he's not that level anymore. And now it's just been underscored by a loss against Imavov. I know he's ranked highly in the middleweight rankings as well, but that's not who you expect him to lose against, particularly when he's working or trying to work his way back to being a contender for the belt, right? And the other thing, Chuck, for me, is Izzy himself. In this fight against Imavov, he was in disbelief that he lost, and he tried to argue it. I don't think he was arguing it because he felt as if he truly felt as if he could get out from that position and still continue to fight. I think he was in shock in terms of, this is what has become of me, and this is what is happening to me. But also because, Chuck, in following the fight against Turkis, he was talking about retirement, and then he pulled that Wolf of Wall Street move that he's not going anywhere, But the fact that he went into a title fight against Turkis, and in his mind, he was already wondering about his own mortality in the ring. And afterwards, like, he cut a figure of someone who didn't quite look as though I'm going to be back here and I'm going to reclaim the title from this man. And as I counted, and as you were mentioning in terms of those names that he lost against, that was his level. And those were guys who, yes, he wasn't beating them all the time, but like, you anticipate that if he's still up there, he beats at least one of them. He's not on a losing streak that has now come to an Imavov. So Chuck, as we know him, like, he can still beat you and me, yeah, for sure. Like, if you're talking about like, oh, it's not quite the end, as if like he can't fight anymore. I think if we call him in here, he'll like slap us around. And a whole host of other MMA fighters from so many companies, and those who are getting into it, and those who are ranked in the top 20 even in the UFC. But in the light that we've seen Israel Adesanya as one of the three kings, said the era is over. Like, there are no three kings. He said there are four kings now with Trickers, but in fact, like, and like 1 Park, 2 Park, none. I don't think there's I think that era has come and gone, particularly where Izzy is concerned. Yeah, Chuck, I think we've seen the last of the best of Izzy.
Look, I know what I said. I just think to myself, he lost against Pereira and he got his back in the rematch.